finally, before lunch, Libby Riviere is going to speak to, and Kate Oldham is going to speak to their project looking at drainage culverts as coastal wildlife corridors. Thanks.
Thank you. So Libby and I are honours students from Deakin University. I submitted my thesis on this project in April, and Libby is currently doing a continuation of the project. Will be submitting her thesis in early November. We've had a fantastic team of supervisors to help support us throughout this project. Cowrie and Barb are here with us today, and we thank all four of you for your fantastic support. So, aside from roadkill, roads are contributing to decreasing mammal numbers by acting as a physical barrier, fragmenting landscapes. Some animals avoid crossing the road altogether. Over time, these populations become isolated and decrease genetic diversity. Maintaining diversity is crucial for the conservation of threatened species, such as the threatened swamp antechinus along the Great Ocean Road. We know, thanks to Barb's research, that populations are using pockets of coastal habitat as refuge along the Great Ocean Road, but they are subject to coastal erosion. So are they connecting with inland populations? Culverts are tunnels for draining water under roads. Their use by wildlife has been studied overseas, but there are a limited number in Australia and even fewer or none investigating coastal roads and small mammals. So until I started my project, we didn't know if animals were safely moving from their coastal refuge to inland habitats. This led us to the Otways. As you all know, beautiful study site, very high biodiversity. It has the Great Ocean Road running through it. Great Ocean Road brings high traffic levels and is acting as our potential barrier in this study. As I mentioned before, coastal erosion is causing a lot of habitat loss, and pockets of habitat, like you can see in this picture, are expected to be eroded by 2031. So this led us to our research question. Does wildlife use drainage structures to cross the Great Ocean Road? What species do we see? Does season impact crossing, and do structure characteristics of the culverts impact crossing as well? Libby will now talk about what she's found.
So, to gain this knowledge, we set up camera traps at culverts along the Great Ocean Road from Anglesea to just beyond Kennet River in the yellow circled area. We had 3 selection criteria for our culverts, and we ended up going with these 6 structures that met those criteria. So the green ones were used by both Kate and I, and the blue ones I've added into my study this year, and the red one was discontinued. So here are our culverts. As you can see, they all vary in their size and shape. And of particular interest is the Anglesea culvert up the top left, which actually has 2 culverts right next to each other. And the lower one is at ground level and the upper one is 90 centimetres above ground. So for our setup, we had an infrared camera on both entrances of the culvert. This is to see animals both entering and exiting. Then we had white flash cameras in the surrounding habitat and a song meter and a temperature logger to record temperature on the inland side. And as there was nowhere to attach the cameras near the culvert base, Kate and the team came up with this novel design over here. It's a water-filled umbrella base with a wooden dowel and a bracket on an angle to kind of angle the camera towards the bottom of the culvert. So over our study, together we've sorted over 870,000 images, and we've seen a lot of species. Here are some of our culvert visitors. To quantify this data, we came up with 2 terms, events and crossings. One event is counted when an animal is seen within a 5-minute period, and this is to ensure that each individual is only counted once. So far, we've had 3,506 events and counting as I continue to go through my data. And of these, 488 were confirmed crossings. So a confirmed crossing is when an animal is seen entering at one side and exiting at the other side. It's important to note that these are underestimates due to camera issues and missing animals. If one camera isn't working on one side, then we can't get a confirmed crossing. So now I'm going to go through the species we've seen at each site and compare Kate's spring-summer data to my autumn-winter data. And these graphs don't include introduced predators. So for the Anglesey lower site, we saw the highest diversity of species. And in autumn-winter, there was an increase in antechinus species and rats. And there was also the addition of a long-nosed bandicoot, which Kate didn't see any, but I've seen a number of crossings in autumn-winter. And then there was a decrease in echidnas and also reptiles. I haven't seen any reptiles, which makes sense given that my study was in winter. In the Anglesey upper culvert, which we added this year, we've seen a lot of rat crossings. There's been over 50 bush rat crossings. And at Godfrey Creek, which is our largest culvert, there was some larger animals that crossed. So there was swamp wallabies, and there was a large increase in the swamp wallabies that I've seen in my study compared to Kate's. Although I have seen less of the smaller mammals, but this could be due to one problem I had with the camera. But I really want to point out something here. Notice the ricali, which Kate saw cross 9 times. And I haven't seen it at all, and I'll come back to that in a second. So at Y Road, we saw a reduction in antechinus numbers in autumn-winter, but I have seen also a lot of rat species use the culvert. And Shrapnel Gully, which is the new site we added this year, had many events that I saw on the inland camera, but not many confirmed crossings. So there was only 3 confirmed crossings by bush rats. And I wondered why I kept seeing all these animals on the inland camera, but nothing ever was really on the coastal side. That was until I noticed this pattern. Koala enters, sees a big puddle of water, turns around, and goes back. And this puddle didn't dry up for the whole 3 months that I've had the cameras out. So what about predators? Well, before I mentioned the ricali, the last time the ricali was seen, Kate saw the ricali and the fox entered the culvert at the same time, and it was never seen leaving. And we haven't seen it since, which is very sad. Another example I have is the Anglesey upper culvert. So for the first 3 months, I had an average of 40 bush rat crossings per month. March just looks smaller because the cameras were only out for the later half of March. And then it seems to kind of drop off after May. I mean, this could be due to season, but there might be another explanation. At the very end of May, we saw a fox. It kind of placed its face in the culvert, had a look around, turned around, didn't cross. But for the next month, there was only 3 bush rat crossings. And then at the start of July, a fox went all the way through, went in, out, back in, and then crossed to the other side. And since then, I haven't seen a single bush rat even not cross, not even on the camera. And that's including all of August as well. So here are our fox and cat crossings combined for Kate's study and my study. I really want to point out Anglesey lower. So during Kate's study, she saw a lot of fox crossings. And then in between our 2 studies, I believe Parks Victoria did some fox control in the area. And I didn't see any foxes at the start, but I did see at least 2 feral cats that Kate didn't see. And then the fox appeared in May on the upper Anglesey culvert, but they're right next to each other. And then also the Godfrey Creek culvert, which is the big one, that had a real increase in foxes, and I've seen them almost 1 crossing every week. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about behavior and factors that can influence an animal crossing. So this is a picture of inside of the Godfrey Creek culvert, and you can see the branches and logs kind of inside there. Well, we've both noticed that larger animals like wallabies, foxes, and echidnas will just cross straight through the culvert. But smaller animals tend to stick to where they can find cover, like this. Something else I've noticed, particularly which was shown before by the koala, is the impact of water. This trend is not unique to the koala. I've also seen water be a negative impact on crossings for cats, possums, foxes, and some rodents. Water does seem to attract birds though, so we've got some lovely bowerbirds over there in the corner, and other birds that have been hanging around in the stagnant water at the Shrapnel Gully culvert. And then there's other species like the bandicoot, which doesn't seem to mind and is unbothered either way. Now I'm going to pass back to Kate.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't know there were animations on this one. That's fun. So statistical results. Libby's are still underway, so I'll just talk about what I found, which was that they varied quite a bit by site. Just going to click through all of these because they were meant to come up at once. So at Anglesea, for example, in warmer temperatures, we found there was a lot more rhatis activity and crossings. But on the flip side, over at the Y Road culvert, we saw that there were more antechinus crossings in cooler temperatures. Now, one possible explanation for this is that antechinus primarily eat insects less active during cooler temperatures. So it is entirely possible that antechinus were having to move further to get their food at night, which would explain that result. But we are open to hearing any other explanations if anyone has any. Another statistically significant result that I observed, which is in line with current literature as well, is the impact of moon phase. So it's widely known or widely investigated that fuller moon equals more predators. Predators can see their prey better under a fuller moon, therefore the prey are more likely to be a bit less active during a full moon. This is exactly what we saw. I saw less bushrat activity at the Anglesea culvert and more cat crossings under a fuller moon at the Y Road culvert. So, what did we conclude from this study? Clearly, drainage culverts are used frequently by a range of wildlife. This is a huge finding. We did not know this at all until I started my study. Culvert design and size influences which species can use them. Obviously, we had the swamp wallabies using the larger one. They couldn't fit through a smaller one. Water and cover inside culvert also seems to influence behaviour, and introduced predator management is absolutely needed, along with further research required, always. So that brings us to what is next for this study. So hopefully Libby's statistics will help to bring out the impact of seasonality on crossings at culverts, as well as the impacts of a range of other environmental factors. Recommendations. Once again, further research is required. Also, the Great Ocean Road is going to need to be rebuilt in areas due to coastal erosion. So we definitely highly recommend the addition and modification of different structures along the road during upgrades. We're also, we've been in contact with the Department of Transport, and they're very, very keen to hear what our results are. So this is really positive for the future as well. In terms of management, we think increased vegetation around the culvert entrance would provide more habitat connectivity between the two sides and encourage some more crossings. And as well, introduce predator management. We have been talking to Erin Nash. There was a lovely photo on the previous presentation with the traps set up in the culvert because we know they're using them. So it is a place where we can set traps, and we do know that they frequent. So that is all that we have for now. Libby will hopefully find some more really interesting data. And if we don't have time for questions, please come and find us at lunch, especially if you know where any other culverts are, because there are no known records of where they are, and that makes it hard.
It's really cool. Thanks, guys. Does anyone have one quick question for Kate or Libby and or? No. People are hungry. Oh, Jude, we got to wait for Mike. I think Scott's coming.
are you finding much difference in the length of the culverts?
That is,
Especially where we're going to need wildlife crossings on 4-lane roads, etc.
yeah, I did. There are a few studies that do look at length because all of ours are along the Great Ocean Road. They're very similar in length. It's only a 2-lane road. So we haven't been able to do a good statistical analysis of the impact of length. But for some, there are some studies out there that definitely say that length does have an impact. Does that sort of answer your question? Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Really interesting. Again, maybe a round of applause for all of the speakers. You can go and have lunch now.